Hi guys, it's me, Kimberley, and welcome to this new video. Today I am coming to you with a video where I will talk about, well, maybe reinventing my own knitting in 2026. Maybe a bit late to the party, but I hope you still join me in this video and like it. If you're new here, hi. As I said, my name is Kimberley. I live in Amsterdam, and well, in my daily life I'm a consultant in urban planning, but my hobby is knitting. So if you're a returning viewer, hi, welcome back. Today I am wearing something that I normally, well, don't really wear, so I thought let's just take the chance to actually put it on. So this is my weekend slip over by Petite Knit, the v-neck version. As you can see, it's really oversized. I knitted this, I think, after I finished 2 garments or something when I first started knitting. And I knitted this in the Sadness Garn Sunday held together with a hand-dyed mohair from Queen Fiber that I bought in my local yarn shop here, Stephen and Penelope. It's a very thick mohair, so it's not your normal, typically thin mohair. I believe it's even with alpaca, so it's quite bulky. Probably not the best combination for this pattern, but hey, I was a beginner knitter, so who cares? I am not making a make 9 video today because that just doesn't really fit my knitting style. And now that I have a couple of years of knitting under my belt, I know myself a bit more, and I also know what my tendencies are regarding to starting new projects or maybe not finishing projects. And it's good to set intentions, I think, and maybe speak out some ambitions that I have, but I'm not gonna put myself in the position where I'm now gonna talk about garments that I want to make and then end up not making them. Yeah, I feel like that's not really what fits me and my channel here. So I thought I'm just gonna talk about my intentions, my ambitions, and how I want to like reinvent my knitting in 2026, as 2025 has not my best knitting year, mostly due to health issues, but also maybe mindset. I don't really know. But as I said, I'm not really a planner, and I also don't really have a stash. So me stash bash thing or knitting things with yarn from my stash is just not a thing. And also because I don't have a stash, normally what happens is I see a garment that I like, buy yarn for the garments, start the project, or maybe what else, scarf, doesn't really matter, but I buy the yarn specifically for that project and start that project. At this moment, I only think I have some drops snow for sailor slippers in my stash that I didn't start yet, but all the other yarn that's like laying around here is actually part of a project that's already started. So that's short how I well, attack my knitting, but I do have some intentions for the knitted wardrobe that I like. So I have just divided all my ambitions and intentions into a couple of points, and I just want to go through them with you, and I hope maybe you get some inspiration or give me some tips, because that's also very welcome. The first one I want to talk about is actually making more notes, and that is for myself, but also for you guys who are watching my channel or my Instagram. I often get a lot of questions about what I knitted it with, which size I made, or what my gauge was, or all this specific information points from a knitted garment. And I do talk to you in my vlogs that is some sort of a diary of knitting, but that doesn't always hit the right pointers that you need to know to recreate a garment or get some help out of the information that I provide. So my goal is actually for a while that I want to maybe start journaling / keeping a diary slash keeping a knitting diary slash, what do you want to call it? Maybe not really diary, it's just notes for my knitting. When I was younger, I did journal a lot. I had a couple of books that I like made my own monthly spread with like a theme, and I would draw it all. And I also really like collecting little things, and then I end up never doing nothing with them. So my intention is making some sort of booklet diary that involves knitting information, where I could just write down in physical form about my knitting, details when I started it, or just when I am working it up, I can just drop some thoughts. And maybe if it works, I want to keep track of my Ravelry. But I just tried that a couple of times, and maybe Ravelry is just not really something that I work easily with, as I have to specifically get on my laptop, fill in the things, and that's just not something I really do at the start of the project. I just dive right in. So my ambition is to make more notes about my knits, and then specifically in physical form, so I can get maybe some more satisfaction out of it, making a creative thing. The second part I want to talk about is yarn. I have the ambition to try more yarn brands. I have the tendency to actually pick the same brands of yarn when they give me exactly what I wanted and I am satisfied with the end result. So I tend to just then look at the same brands over and over, while there are maybe a lot of other knitting yarn brands out there that are able to give me the same result. I don't know, I maybe that's very neurotypical of me, that once I am happy with something, I just want to do it over and over again, and I don't feel the need to deviate from it. But there are some yarn brands that I am eyeing. So one of them is the Biches and Bushes. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's the French yarn brand. I just really like some of the colors that they have, so I'm really interested in trying that out. And I also heard some really positive reviews of the yarn, so that one is definitely on my list. I also hear a lot of people talk about the Filclana yarns. I've never tried any of their yarns, so I would love to try that as well. Same goes for Rama yarn. I do hear a lot of people talk about the Vivel, but I also hear them talk about how much it pills, and I hate pilling. So probably that specific yarn from that brand is not gonna work out for me. But if you have another yarn that you like a lot and doesn't pill from Rama, let me know. The other one is Unling yarn. It's a brand that I think is from the UK, so it's quite expensive for shipping, but I also have a pattern that I'm eyeing from them that I would love to knit up in the yarn, so that's on my list as well. But I just see in my knitting that I just tend to go back to the Issachar mohair, which I really would love to knit with again this year. And also like the Knitting for Olive, having merino with their soft silk mohair, or just their normal merino with their soft silk mohair. I'm also really tempted to try their compatible cashmere. But yeah, probably you're gonna see those coming back this year. If you feel like there is a specific yarn band that should really fit my style, please let me know. I'm always open to discover more. The third thing is knit more socks. I knitted quite a lot of socks in the first years that I was knitting, but last year I did not even finish one pair. I finished one sock, and not really finished it because I didn't do the end seaming. So that feels like a shame because I actually wear them a lot. I really like knitting them up, so why did I not knit any more socks this year? I don't know, maybe not my priority, but yeah, I really want to pick that up and knit at least a pair or maybe 2 pairs this upcoming year. And if we're really feeling well more than that, I feel like I should be able to bust out some socks. So that's one of my intentions that I'm setting, knitting more socks, because I actually wear them a lot. So that's that should be enough reason for me to actually start knitting socks, right? Then the fourth thing is finishing more garments before I start new projects. As I have the tendency to just start a project, knit the whole upper part or the yoke or whatever it might be, and then leave it be and start something new. So I feel like I am very engaged in the part where you are setting the construction for the garment, and I want to knit on it all the time. And then once that part is over, I want to start something new. And sometimes I just continue, which I'm very proud of myself, do the body and do the sleeves. But then if I again hit another point where I have to do some other things than actually knitting it stockinette or just binding it off, so there are some specific detailing or something, I have the tendency again to put it away. So I don't know if it's like a dopamine rush or if it's like my brain that has gotten so used to all this TikTok and social media quick satisfaction of things that makes me not sit with a garment that long. I have the ambition to actually like finish it and then not letting it rot on the side for months, and then actually do the finishing touch, because sometimes the garment's like for 90% done and I then don't finish it, which is quite a shame because I do really enjoy wearing my knits. So I cannot really understand what is going on in my brain that actually makes me like present this behavior. But I think it's also combined with another point that is I want to be more intentional with the knitting. So I don't know if that means I should do more intricate knits where I'm talking about cables or repeats in a pattern that makes it textured, because I feel like a lot of the time that I'm knitting, I am also consuming YouTube or other streaming platforms that makes me actually not be only knitting, but I'm also like watching something else or listening to something else, which then I don't think it actually takes away all my attention from my knitting, but I feel like I always need something else on the background while I'm knitting. Well, maybe if I'm doing more like cables or other knits that need more of my attention, I could actually just be knitting and listening to music, or I am allowing myself to maybe then use audiobooks. But I don't know how you guys do that. If you knit, you always do, or I don't think it's doing something else, but it's like having something else that is also going into your brain. So I will probably never be knitting in silence because there's music or, as I said, watching shows. And I do think that's also because the week is quite busy. I have a full-time job that takes quite a lot of my brain. And then other nights we are going to the gym, and the nights that we're just home, we watch some TV together on the couch, and then I'm of course knitting while we are watching TV. But I also feel like because the week is already quite demanding for me sometimes, I don't have the mental capacity to just actually go knitting. So this last week on Thursday night, I was by myself and I really had the intention to go knitting, but I just felt so drained that I actually didn't find any joy in knitting, and I just ended up doom scrolling, which is just so sad. and I feel like at the end of the night, I feel annoyed by myself and miserable. So I should learn from that and not do that. But probably that is something that a lot of people struggle with. So that's just the phone being a blessing and a curse. So the fifth point is actually more about patterns and garments. So I don't have a lot of specific patterns that I actually want to knit this year, but I did set some intentions, and that I categorized a couple of them by what I just saved or liked on Instagram a lot, or that have been returning patterns that I'm interested in. But maybe a little late to the game, but I like all the pointelle garments that I'm seeing. So I feel like it's more, I don't know, dainty, intricate. I have the ambition to actually do something with that. And I have a couple of patterns that I have been eyeing, and that one of them is the Rikke sweater, and that is by Rikke Johnson. And I believe she's behind Onling, or she makes patterns for Onling, because that is also the pattern that I would like to knit up in the Onling yarn. So that is something I have been eyeing. Also the Vilma vest by Gregoria Fibers. She's actually now also knitting and writing up a pattern for a cardigan, which would be really lovely. But I also really like the vest, because I maybe want to knit the Maple Meadow cardigan. I've seen this cardigan by Knitting with Eve and Marlene's, and I really liked both of their garments a lot. So I thought maybe that is something that I should be knitting up. And I also watched, I don't know what her name is, but Hip Knit Hooray, and she showed in her everything that I knitted in 2025 some mittens, and I believe they're called the Cloudburst mittens. I don't know the designer, but I believe she said it's a free pattern from Ravelry. I don't know, if you look at all those patterns, I think you get a feeling of what I am liking at the moment and maybe want to pursue in knitting. And then on my goal is also a color work garment, and for that one I do have an actual pattern in mind, and that is from Coco Amour Knitwear, and I don't really know how you pronounce. It's like Gerlach. I don't know how you pronounce this, but it's a oversized sweater with some color work, but also some pearl rows that gives it more textures on the knit on the outside. And I think that would just be a lovely color work sweater that I would like to add to my collection, because I'm not really sure if I'm a person who would go for the round yoke color works. So I think this is a pattern that I should really like the end result of, but also the process of knitting. So I am setting my eyes on that one. I believe it's now in testing and will be released in like the end of February, I think. So that will probably one of the patterns that when it comes out, I will be buying and will be buying actually yarn for. I don't have any other color work patterns that are on my radar at this moment, so I think this is just gonna be the one. A bit in the same category is like the textured knit. So I've saved a couple of them the last year, and that is mostly like the clay sweater from Ozetta, which is the knit pearls interchanging throughout the garment that gives it this textured look, which I really like. I also really like the sweater number 27 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and I also have been eyeing her sweater number 28 a lot. However, I already talked about that in a previous videos, that I don't am really sure about how the neck folds, so that keeps me from actually buying the yarn and casting it on. And another textured knit is the Jenny V-neck. That has been on my liked list, or want to make a list, since the pattern came out, and I've never really actually casted it on, but maybe this year will be the year. But now, I don't know, I feel like those really a bit more textured knits are something I am gravitating towards more. And I don't know if the Jenny V-neck is actually more of a cabled garment, but that's actually the other category that I really would like to dive into a bit more this year, because I knitted a Moby slipover and that was just so much fun. I mean, it was hard, but it was also a lot of fun. And I just want to knit something that is heavy cabled. If it's a slipover, a cardigan, or a sweater, it doesn't really matter. I actually like them all. I think a couple of them that I saved is the Shoreline sweater from Ozetta. I don't know if you would say that it's actually a very knitted cable sweater, because if you look at it, it doesn't feel like a cabled sweater, if you know what I mean. Maybe that one is more of like a textured knit. I don't know. The other thing that I liked is in a slipover and a sweater, and that's the Rotate Loop. Yeah, sweater or vest from Other Loops. I've been really liking that one every time I see it in my feed. And of course, the Dagmar series from Petite Knit would be a big challenge. But I also, every time I see it, I really like it. But I've also seen more cable knits from Coco Amore Knitwear. That's also like the collarwork garment that I was talking about. I've seen a couple of her garments with cables that I also really like, and also the fit of it speaks to me. So maybe she will be one of the designers I will pick a cable knit pattern from. But it's also from Kitova Kika and Sari Nordland that have a lot of beautiful cabled knits. And I think when I'm ready to cast on something that is a cabled garment, I will probably look at all these designers and pick something beautiful out. So as you can see, these are more like intentions, ambitions, sort of patterns that I am looking for, and I'm not really set on what I'm gonna knit. I want to be open to new patterns that are released, and my behavior of casting them on a whim will probably be contributing to that. So I just want to give myself the freedom to actually decide in the moment which pattern I want to make and what I like. I do feel like I want to knit something with more of a V-neck. I also would like to knit something dark blue, but also light blue, and maybe something more intricate in white. So I do have some colors that I feel by certain type of patterns. So the days will come and I will of course take you along in what I then will be doing and which patterns I will be choosing. And that brings me to the last point of this video, and that is to actually grow this channel this year. And I think we are now a bit further than 4,000 subscribers, and I would really like to at least hit the 5 in the beginning of this year. So if you watch this video and you really like it, please subscribe or like my video. It really helps. And because that is an intention of mine, I am of course also trying to put more effort into making more videos, actually doing more of like a scheduled upload, at least that's the ambition. And also giving more attention to my Instagram and taking you along there, posting more photos and maybe reels to actually show everything that I'm doing, and trying to, well, gain some new followers and grow the channel. So that would be very lovely if that would work out. Of course, it's also a hobby and I like sharing my hobby with you, but it's also nice to see if there is some growth in the channel and people are actually liking it and watching it. And combined with that is also creating more of a community, and I would really like to be able to attend more knitting meetups slash evenings or things that are organized around knitting or crafting here in Amsterdam. I scared of going to new places by myself and meeting new people. So I hope I can get over that fear and actually attend more of that kind of events, so I can also just talk about knitting in person to people instead of me just sending it to you. And of course, part of that is also organizing a knitting meetup with Sherry from Good Knits. We have been messaging back and forth with the person from the cafe that it's been hosted at before. However, it's not really working out to find a date, so we're actually have been looking into other locations this week, and so I hope we can update you soon with some information about that knitting meetup, because we also of course need a couple of weeks to promote and invite all of you to that knitting meetup. So I think that is a beautiful goal of me that goes hand in hand with growing my community here online, but also offline in real life. And I think now I actually have talked a lot. So no, I think I'm gonna end this video here because I have been talking to you for quite a while now, and I think I have dumped a lot of information on you already. So yes, if you liked the video, please like it or subscribe to my channel, and then I hope to see you in the next one. And if you made it all the way to this end, thank you for joining me, and I see you soon.